Dosm's Rambles.
Hey YouTube, Dosm Writer here with a special Dosm's Rambles, little bit of a bonus video for this week because I wanted to sneak this in. I've been wanting to do a video like this for a while. I think I even mentioned it in some video I did. Oh, I did the New York Comic Con video, I think. I mentioned that I do read the comics and that I wanted to do some sort of video about them when I caught up, but I wasn't sure what kind, and I'm still not sure what kind of covers I want to do in the future, but I kind of want to do this video to talk just a smidge about my experiences with the comic, and then why I think it's the best thing right now, and then I'll mention a little bit at the end, like how, or like bounce ideas off you guys maybe on what I could do for further coverage. But anyway, I wanted to sneak this in, I want to do this video, but I kind of have a full plate of videos that are on the way, so this is going to come out the same day as my Ninja Steel review, so I have to double up on some days, so I'm sorry about that. But anyway, now that we're 50 seconds into the video, the MMPR comic came as honestly a huge surprise. We've had PR comics like for a few years now, because we had like the paper cuts ones that I glanced at a couple times and they were very okay. And when this happened with PR, I just kind of assumed the same thing. I wasn't that interested. I heard a couple rumblings on Twitter and stuff and people being like, actually it's a lot better than you'd expect. I'm like, I'll check it out sometime. And then I ended up catching up around the time I think the first annual came out, and I was like, oh man, this is actually really good. And it's surprising because, one, MMPR fatigue, I instantly wasn't that interested in more MMPR, and two, because of the paper cut stuff, everything was just so mediocre. It was just like, there wasn't that incentive outside of just curiosity, and it ended up being so good. It's gotten quite famous amongst the fandom for like the Lord Draken storyline, but even before we got to that, because I caught up like right when we were on the cusp of that, like before the reveal of the actual Ranger form, I mean, it was great just in its day-to-day stuff, meaning that like it made the MMPR characters feel like real characters, like full-on development and quirks and like imperfections, whereas the originals were like, I have time to do 10 charities and homework and help my parents, and this one was like actual real stuff going on. Like I think one of the stories in the annual was like a day in the life of Jason, and there was also an issue which was kind of unfortunately placed right after the big reveal of Draken. It was like a Billy-focused flashback, which was actually, I thought, a really good issue about Billy's character, but it was just kind of unfortunately placed. It kind of reminded me of the Morgan-focused episode in Walking Dead that took place when Glenn's fate was up in the air the first time. But I loved, like, that was what I loved initially, was that they felt like actual characters, and that there was this actual great storyline about the mistrust of Tommy, which I thought was great, because the stuff with Tommy's guilt and there was really no mistrust that I really remember from the series, except for like a smidge every now and then, maybe, but I might even be misremembering that. But I do remember Tommy did have some guilt, but it wasn't played up a lot, like, but I like that added more dimensions to him of stuff that they just barely touched on in the series. So I instantly loved it for that, and I loved that they were setting up for things like Zach and Trini's potential departure, because the series basically is following, if you don't know, it's following like a loose blueprint of what the TV show set up, but it's very much its own alternate universe. Like, they do things that never happened in the show, and they're gonna deviate further from it, but I like that there's like a loose blueprint of it. Like, so when we even saw Aisha in the future, and so they set up for different versions of that story happening. And there's also MMPR Pink, which is like, I'm not sure if that's supposed to be the same concrete continuity or if it's like kind of also an alternate universe, but I read that too and that finished, and I didn't think the overall storyline of that like was the best in terms of like the plot, but I thought the character stuff was really interesting. I thought it was really cool to see like what Kim's and Zach and Trini's life was like after they left. So I actually quite enjoyed that series for that aspect. But so I'm not sure, because I feel like I've asked a couple people and I got a couple different answers, but so that was also a really cool aspect of the comments. But the stuff with Lord Draken, I know there's some people that think, oh, it's too much Tommy focus, but the thing is it's not technically JDF, it's Tommy, and I think that separates a little bit, because I feel bad for people that are still Tommy fans, and like even in some respects I'm still a Tommy fan, that get shamed for it just because JDF's kind of done some stuff. Like, so I've seen people being like, you can't like Tommy anymore because JDF stopped ASJ from going to cons. I'm like, just separate the character and actor. So I kind of feel bad for people for that. But the point I wanted to get to with that is that just look at it as Tommy, even if you can consider Tommy overblown as well. They're doing some really interesting stuff with him. And honestly, when I'm reading the comic, I don't hear any of the characters' voices in my head, or from the show. I hear honestly different voices. for Tommy as well. So there's, even though they're the same characters, they sound different and feel different to me. So that's what I like too. So like that cheesy MMPR sheen isn't all over it. So the Lord Draken stuff was really neat. I mean, just getting this new fused ranger form, and that's one other thing, is we got all these really cool new forms. There's obviously that, but MMPR Pink got kind of a 2.0 suit for her and for everybody that had like little pink like accents because they used her coin as the source, which is really neat. And like Zach's had a hoodie, which was really cool. We got stuff like the Black Ranger and other Ranger sentries in the future. We did one where everyone was turned green because they used Tommy's as a springing off point. I thought that was really cool. And there's something I want to touch on about that in a minute. And now we're getting into a storyline about the original MMPR Rangers from 1969, which is really cool. Like the 19 was the last one I read, and it ends on the cliffhanger of this this reporter. Is she a reporter? I can't remember if she's a reporter, but this lady that's been helping them track down some stuff, some enemies that have been attacking, revealing herself to be one of the old Red Rangers. And then we obviously know the 1969 stuff's coming. New York Comic Con, they teased a war storyline. So they're just really doing awesome stuff, and they're taking such advantage of the mythology that was established in stuff like the annual with Goldar's backstory. In some of the flashbacks from Drakon's world, we saw like the Blue Centurion, the Phantom Ranger, the Alien Rangers. We got to see the future Zords. And I'd love to see that continue. I would love to see them branch out and do other series. But right now they're doing such good storytelling with MMPR one, I don't even mind it as much. I'd love to see them go into Zeo eventually. But I also think it would be cool. Right now they're doing a second one, Go-Go Power Rangers, which is a more slice of life, day in the life storyline one, which I haven't read yet. I think it's only like 3 issues. So I'm going to read that this week. But I'd love to see them do another one, like keep this MMPR one going, but maybe pick another random season and do a similar one in the same style, like pick like Wild Force or Ninja Storm or something that is still in the same universe, and you can have little Easter eggs and hints at other things in the world, but since it's more self-contained, I think that would be really cool to pick random seasons and have them running alongside MMPR. Like maybe just have them run a year, you know, kind of like the series does. I think that would be cool. But it's in such good hands with the Boom Studios team, and it's crazy like how underwhelmed I was at the potential of this, that I think that the comic is the best thing in the franchise right now. The series doesn't even hold a candle to it. The movie, I think, definitely was up there in terms of, I think it was the same style of thinking, whereas this is more using the established MMPR lore and designs in a way, or at least the lore concepts, because it's a whole different timeline. But I think that the movie had very similar thinking and reinventing these characters and fleshing out some more interesting mythology potentials, and I really still hope that gets to continue. But setting the movie aside, since that's in limbo, I think the comic is what the franchise has, or what is going best for the franchise right now in terms of writing and quality. And it got me thinking about the future of PR, because there's been so many different topics going on right now. And this is what the second part of the video is going to be, is that this MMPR fatigue, because they keep promoting MMPR via the merchandise, which I talked about in the New York Comic Con video. But the problem is that they have to do it because that's the only one that sells bigger for them, because it sells to not only the collectors, but it also sells to the casuals, because they failed to create a recognizable brand outside of MMPR. They failed to make another one of the series as recognizable, whereas most other franchises like Turtles and Transformers have managed to create multiple iconic eras so that they have like multiple huge fan bases of different versions from over the years, but they really only have MMPR. So it's something that annoys me, but I also understand that from a business perspective. And then, you know, the show right now is in such a huge rut, both with the toy line, Ninja Steel being a very lackluster toy line, both quality-wise and sales-wise, and the show also feeling very lackluster. So I was thinking about how ever since Power Rangers was supposed to end with RPM, there was rumors of an animated one being pitched. I think even like a small test pilot was done for Disney, if I remember, but there was rumors of that before like MMPR Revisioned, or during MMPR Revision and before Samurai. And I actually always liked the idea of Power Rangers animated. I think it takes away from the tokusatsu aspect, but I think with where the franchise is right now, animated would be so much better because it would free them. I understand that like it's cheaper probably to get the Japanese footage, but it's crazy to me that we're still using someone else's TV show. Like no one else doesn't film their own TV show. Like you're not like, okay, well Flash is, you know, hiring Japan to film footage for them. It's like maybe back when they first started, when they were really poor, but now it's enough that they could be making their own suits. Or I would be even happy with just bringing the suits over from the Sentai and then not even using Japanese footage hardly. But that's for another like rant. But my point is if we went animated, we could be free. We could be free of relying on anyone else's scenarios and footage and storylines. We could do anything. We could bring back actors so much easier if we wanted to. If we wanted to have, oh, Tommy's back, or Jason's back, or Jen's back, or Cole. No, maybe not Cole. But, you know, bring those people back as voice acting, or even get somebody that's close enough to their voice. Just Jeffrey Prazo can voice everyone, but we could be so free to do so many things. Like the MMPR comic, they can come up with its own designs because, well, there wasn't a White Ranger, Green Ranger hybrid in Sentai because that was from 2 different series. Boom, we'll do it. They do Goldar's weird hybrid mech from MMPR Pink. They could be so free with animation. And honestly, as much as I'm fatigued by MMPR, if they did an MMPR animated series that was based off of this comic with the same writers and the people in charge, I would be fine with it. Like, it would be kind of, you know, a double-edged sword in a way because it would continue MMPR being the main property, but Power Rangers is having such a hard time breaking out of that because they created MMPR as this pillar that is simultaneously beloved and put down by the masses, where it's like, oh, I loved that when it was a show, but it was cheesy trash. And it can't get out of that stigma, and they can't, at this point, it's going to be very difficult for them to find a version that's going to become as iconic. I don't think it'll ever become as iconic, but become any sort of memorable. So I think that that might be one of the only solutions. And I'm not an expert by any means, but I could just see that it working. Like, make a deal with Netflix. My TV's over there, that's why I'm pointing at Netflix. And have it be like Voltron. You have the MMPR series that is like this amazing storytelling, and you could catch the casuals being like, oh, look, MMPR is a cartoon now, let's check it out. And be like, oh my god, it's actually amazing. And then you could get the new kids. Kids love Voltron, and it has amazing storytelling. And if it could be like that, it could make the MMPR brand not associated with the cheesy trash. And then the merchandise, even though it might get kind of old as you wouldn't have, you know, every year is a new toy set to buy, I would love a toy line to get all these cool designs that are coming out of the MMPR comic. The Centuries, the MMPR Pink designs, Lord Draken. Hell, I would even like the green costume variants, which would be very easy to make. And since they're being so creative with this, if they make new suits and new villains and new Zords based off of the old ones, or hell, even new stuff altogether, they could do an 8th MMPR Ranger, they could do a whole new Zord set, and they could do it under the umbrella of MMPR and sell the toys for it. And like I said, this is probably stuff that would never happen, and like I said, I'm not, it sounds like I'm the expert, but I'm not. But I just think if they're stuck with MMPR as this main vehicle because of the way they marketed it over the years, they might as well take advantage of it. And as sick as I am of MMPR, honestly, if they could make a quality, amazing animated show like Voltron and like the comic, and that comes out on Netflix every so often, I would be happy. Like, so long as the storyline is good, I'm happy, because honestly, the comic storyline is the best thing it has going for it right now, and I could see that really being something where you create this show that's appealing to kids, but that older fans, teenagers, and adults like us fans can get into too. And that's the sign of a good show, and I hate that argument. It's a kid show, it's supposed to be bad, because there's series like Voltron, like Avatar, like the Batman animated series that people grew up with, and that's the sign of a great show when you remember it being awesome as a kid, and you go back as a teenager, as an adult, and not only does it hold up, but you're noticing stuff you never caught before, because either it went over your head, or it was like a subtle little in-joke. And I think the MMPR cartoon could be that, but that probably won't happen. But I think it's a good idea, personally, because I wouldn't mind seeing that. And it could breathe a little new life to MMPR for people like me that are sick of it, because even now, when I'm getting sick of MMPR stuff, like I look at my Legacy figures on the shelf, and I'm thinking, oh, that's the comic team sitting there on the shelf, so it's all automatically cooler instead of the old and busted stuff. But anyway, sorry if that was a bit of a ramble, but I wanted to give my thoughts on the comic and my thoughts on how it could be used for the future. But anyway, I do want to do coverage for the comic in the future, but I'm not sure what I'll do. They don't come out every week like, you know, Sentai episodes or Power Rangers episodes, so maybe I could do, like, starting with issue 20, do an issue review every time it comes out, or I could wait for arcs to complete. Like, they're just about to start the 1969 Rangers thing, so maybe I could do a video after that. Let me know what you guys think, but I definitely want to do more comic coverage in the future, because it's probably my favorite thing in the franchise right now. But anyway, thanks for hanging in there for me for this ramble. Till next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. It's Dosm Rider.